All right, for those of you who might be struggling a little bit with understanding how to create your Access queries, just going to go over a few of these from the examples that we did in class for the vendor database. So I have the book above here. Just going to scroll through and go over a couple of these to make sure that you're clear on how to do this. For example, this first one that I'll do, create a query that lists all products that cost more than $50 and are temperature controlled. So that's what the query is going to do. That's the purpose of the query. You have to think about the purpose of the query first. They're not going to tell you every little thing to do. You have to use some deductive reasoning to figure that out. So it says here, display the following fields from the product table. So I'm creating my query in query design as always. Product table, and it doesn't say anything about the supply table, so I don't need to put it in there. If I needed to, I can always add additional tables by clicking Show Table. All right, so I've got that here. I'm going to try to open these up so you can see them all. All right, then it tells you which ones to have. Product ID, you just double click to put them in there. Product name, price, units, and sterile. So I've got all of those in here. Now it tells you, hint, the temperature control field is a yes/no field that should not appear. So they let you know that the temperature control field should not be in your list of columns when we run this query. However, let's look at what the purpose of the query is. The purpose of the query are to list all products that cost more than $50 and are temperature controlled. So we have to think, where would money amounts be when we're talking about how much things cost? And that's going to be price. Price is the only thing in this entire table that could have anything to do with cost. And then it says more than 50. So for the criteria, we have to put it on the correct row. We would put more than 50, which would be greater than 50. Now, if it was 50 or more, it would be greater than and equal to 50, like so. But it's not, so it would be just greater than 50. You do not put the currency indicator there. And then temperature controlled. Well, we don't have temperature controlled here in order to say I need the temperature controlled ones. So right now, if I run it, I can see these are all the ones that are more than 50. I don't see any that are lower than 50. I'm going to click here to go back. But I don't have the temperature control in here. Now, if I drag temperature control in and take a look at it, I only want the ones that are temperature controlled. So the ones that have a check mark. Well, lots of these don't have a check mark. So I have to modify the query to tell it I only want the ones that are check marked. Now, temperature control is a yes/no field. How do I know that? Because when I look at it, it has check boxes, and check boxes denote yes/no fields. So if I want it to be checked, my criteria here would be yes. And because these are on the same row, that means that my results must do both of these things. They have to be greater than the 50, and they have to be temperature controlled. Now, if I run it, that's correct, but it does say here the temperature control field is a yes/no field. That should not appear in the query results, so we need to uncheck it. But I would strongly suggest that you leave it checked temporarily just to make sure your results are correct. Okay, so that's the example of that one. An OR query, which the other one is an example of, with an OR query, instead of putting the criteria on the same line, you put the second criteria on the second line where it says OR. Okay, so in this other example where it says people who sell equipment or sterile products, then I'm going to have to deal with one of these being an OR, so it'll be on the second line, and then the other one being on the top line. So that's an example of that one. Now, if you're doing where you create new fields, like this markup one, when you create that query, we'll click here and create query design. On this one, it says I'm including the company field from supplier and some fields from products. I'm going to add both. I'm going to pull in the company field. And then product, I need product ID, product name, and price. And then it says to display the discount in a calculated field. So that means I need another field down here that I don't have. To create a field, you just type in the name, and they tell you to call it markup. And if you are going to use it based on an existing field and you're going to do math with it, then the name of the existing field, in this case price, and you can see it right here, goes in square brackets. It's by your letter P, price. And then you do whatever math you have to do. So I'm multiplying, so it'll be an asterisk. I'm multiplying by 10%, so that's 0.1, and that's that. In this particular instance, if I run it, you can see those are correct answer-wise. They go a step further on the next instruction and have you to make some additional changes here to the format. This is on the property sheet, so if you don't see that, you would have to click this button. And then for this field, just be clicked in here somewhere. You would put your caption, and they told you to caption this one markup, for instance. They would tell you to put the format to standard and 2 decimal places. And so all of those things would be done here in the property sheet. So that's just a very quick run through of the thought process involved in creating these queries. It's not going to tell you what to do for the query. You have to look at what they've given you, and then you have to figure it out. So like if they tell you to get all of the resale stuff, you have to figure out that resale is in the field called category. And so when you run that query and you set that criteria, you would set it to the category field. And so sometimes you may have to open these up and take a look. If it was doing it based on a location, then it'd be in state, for example, or on a date, then it would be in this only field that has a date in it. So you do have to think a little bit on these. It's not going to just come right out and tell you. All right, good luck. I hope that helps.